Good day, everyone, and welcome to another webinar of the Animal Welfare Group Nigeria. I am Dr. Oluwaseun C. I am the coordinator of the Animal Welfare Group Nigeria, and I work at the Department of Animal Physiology, the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, as a senior lecturer. And I'm also a George Foster Research Fellow at the Humboldt University in Berlin, Germany. The Animal Welfare Group Nigeria was founded in 2019 after a gathering of students and lecturers from the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria. And now we have over 80 members from different institutions all over the country in Nigeria, and our mission is to increase awareness of animal behavior and welfare in Nigeria, Africa, and the world at large, and to foster collaboration and networking among researchers who are in the field of animal behavior and welfare. And finally, to educate the public on the importance of animal welfare. Today, we'll be having a presentation from Dr. Ojelade Oluwaseun. She'll be talking about the effect of environmental enrichment on the fish and fish behavior and welfare. And our moderator for today's meeting is Dr. Oyebanji Fumilola. So if today is your first time of joining our meeting, kindly follow Animal Welfare Group Nigeria on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and Twitter at AWGN14. And if you have missed our previous webinars, you can find them on our YouTube channel, which is Animal Welfare Group Nigeria. I think we have about 20 videos uploaded now. So please, you can check our YouTube channel and watch them and drop your comments and like and subscribe so that anytime we have any video uploaded, you'll be able to, you'll be notified. Thank you so much. And I wish you have a wonderful meeting today, and I'll see you later. I hand over now to the moderator, Dr. Oyebanji.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be reading Dr. Ojelade's biography. Dr. Ojelade Oluwaseun Christiana, a lecturer and researcher in the Department of Aquaculture and Fisheries Management, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria. Graduated with a first-class degree honors from FUNAB in 2010 as the best graduating female student in the College of Environmental Resources Management and the university. She's a specialist in fisheries management welfare. Presently, Dr. Oluwaseun is a postdoc researcher at the University of Glasgow. She's a certified fish handler by Scottish Accreditation Board and a licensed fish welfare scientist by the Animals in Science Regulation Unit, ASRO, United Kingdom. She belongs to different local and international professional societies, such as International Society for Applied Ethology, Fisheries Society of Nigeria, among others. She also attended conferences where scholarly papers were presented. Dr. Mrs. Ojelade has 28 publications to her credit, comprising 25 journal articles in local and foreign learned journals and 3 peer-reviewed conference proceedings. She is currently working on the behavioral responses and welfare of fish species exposed to some natural and artificial stressors. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Ojelade Oluwaseun Christiana for our presentation. You have the floor.
Hello, everyone. My moderator, thank you very much for that beautiful introduction. And I want to appreciate the coordinator of Animal Welfare Group Nigeria, Dr. Mrs. Oluwaseun C, the opportunity given to me to present the output of my research to my audience today. And I want to welcome everybody to today's seminar presentation. I'll be talking on effect of environmental enrichment on fish behavior and welfare. I'm a researcher from Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. So the outline of my presentation is a special animal that inhabits a unique environment, every of their habits. Unlike human beings and other terrestrial animals who have a separate room when they want to sleep, a separate room when they want to feed, and when you want to ease yourself, you visit the restroom, fish perform every of the life metabolic activities in their rearing enclosure. We feed them in the water, they excrete in the water, mostly nitrogenous, and their survival, reproduction, everything is being carried out in the water body. This makes the welfare of these aquatic animals very, very important to make life comfortable for them in that environment, especially when they are being raised in a confined environment, aquaculture settings. It is important to maintain the welfare of these fish species because they perform several socio-economic importance in the society. Socially, economically, they are of relevance. They serve as a reliable source of income to many fish stakeholders who perform one activity or the other in the distribution of these aquatic products, ranging from those that distribute the health products and facilities that are being used in raising them, to the processors, to the handlers. Definitely, they serve as a source of livelihood and employment opportunities to several people. Also, they help as fish food security because they help to alleviate the level of malnutrition of so many populations. Also, it supplies several nutrients such as iron, selenium. It boosts the brain of the human, and several nutritional benefits of consuming these aquatic foods. Interestingly, fish and other protein glazed in an aquarium helps to calm nerves and make the person to utter welfare. It also serves as a good source of foreign exchange earning. And also in the medical sector, the skin of tilapia fish species is now being used as an alternative treatment for bone and other diseases. Now, what is environmental enrichment? Most of the fish species that we culture today are reared in barren rearing system with poor condition. When you bring a fish that normally naturally inhabits the wild environment where there are so many things which they can play with, and you bring them into an enclosed system, then the system is barren at the same time. In a way, we are making the rearing condition of the fish very poor. At the end of the day, there will be a low productivity from the fish sector. Environmental enrichment entails a unique way of mimicking the natural environment. In the natural environment, the fish species are used to having sediment, having aquatic plants, and several other things to play with. So when you now bring that idea into a confined environment, it involves the deliberate addition of environmental complexities during enclosure of the fish. And the basic aim of doing this is to eliminate negative welfare in the rearing systems of this aquatic system. Thus, environmental enrichment can be summarized as a unique way of creating a sensory and motor simulation that suits neural and physiological needs of the fish species. Now, the question that comes to mind, does it really matter? Does it worth it that we enrich the environment of the fish? It is important to do this because different fish species have different behavioral traits that they display. For instance, if I want to pick up my African catfish, which is familiar with, we realize that they are shy or nocturnal animal. They prefer to inhabit a place that is dark. And so if I decide to culture such a fish in a place whereby there will be 24-hour supply, then I am affecting the health of such animal. So it is to understand the behavior and characteristics of the fish and be able to enrich the environment of such animal in line with behavior. Some fish are naturally in love with substrates. They love to burrow themselves into the sediment of the tank and play around within the soil. Also, some fish are herbivorous fish species. So it is necessary to study the behavior of the fish and know what the fish loves most in order to give the optimum pleasure and welfare to the animal. So I try to weigh the benefit and the risk of enriching the environment of these aquatic animals. When you enrich the environment of a fish, it will reduce the stress that these fish species are being exposed to. And by so doing, they'll have the healthy lifestyle. At the end of the day, you have a good survival rate. It will improve their cognition skills and they will display good behavior that deviates from abnormal one. They will not act physiologically And that all these will lead to improved productivity and welfare for the species. Now, looking at the risk or the challenges or the problems associated with enriching the environment of this animal. Some people may look at it that it is labor intensive or time consuming, but weighing both the benefits and risk, the advantages derived in enriching the environment of these aquatic animals far outweighs the risk involved. Done in order to improve the welfare of fish species. And what is fish welfare? It is just a way of making the fish to have a positive feeling within their rearing environment. Some people may look at it that they are just animal, they are just aquatic nature. Does it really matter? Do they even feel the pain? If you pour something that is toxic to the aquatic medium, the fish will continue to display erratic behavior until it will eventually die. So if they don't feel this pain, why are they reacting abnormally? And why would they die at the end of the day because of that introduced toxic substance? So everything we do, whether positive or negative, the fish can feel it, and it will also determine the output we'll get from them. When you enrich the environment of the fish, you expose them to the 5 freedoms of animal welfare, which is essential for their health. And by so doing, they will be able to express their normal behavior activity. The question that now comes to mind is, why fish welfare? Does it really matter? Yes, it does, because enrichment of the environment of the fish or improving the welfare of fish, it's a win-win scenario. The fish will be happy. It will derive pleasure in its rearing environment. It will have positive feelings within its rearing. And at the end of the day, the fish that is happy will give the best output, because all the feed that is being offered by the fish farmer will be deviated to growth and not in maintaining homeostasis. So, and when the fish have the best growth, the fish is happy. The farmer will also be happy because there will be a higher return on investment by the fish farmer. Now, what are the different types of environmental enrichment? Like I said earlier, whatever form of enrichment you are applying depends on the nature and the characteristics of the fish species you are rearing. For instance, if I'm rearing African catfish, it doesn't make sense when I decide to enrich my environment with continuous power supply, light supply, 24 hours light. So the categories of environmental enrichment could be physical structure. I can decide to make use of artificial or natural plants just to provide shelter, hideout for some shy or nocturnal animals. Beside that, I may look at it that no, I don't want artificial in my plants. I might decide to have a color tanks or wallpaper around my tank. Having this kind of wallpaper around the tank shows that the fish will think it is in its natural environment. It will see plants and a kind of hideout that will make the fish to feel happy within the environment. I could decide to enrich the feed of the fish through dietary enrichment. Instead of the regular brown size feed, I can decide to produce different colors of feed. It will make the fish happy, because we should not forget that in the natural environment, these fish species also feed on different colors of feed within their aquatic environments. I might decide to enrich through the use of water flow. I might vary the water flow, or even provide play materials for these aquatic animals. Also, I might decide to put some conspecifics in their environment. So, whatever form of environmental enrichment that will be applied in the rearing system, it is important to look at it such that it will not constitute any negative effects to these aquatic animals. The first and most important thing is that it must not alter the physical or chemical properties of the water in which they inhabit. For instance, if I'm introducing a substance that with time will leach into the water and make the water toxic for fish, it is either I don't use it at all or use it for a very short period of time and replace it. Because in an attempt to enrich the environment, I must not make the water to go on the other side. Also, the enrichment material does not affect the access to food by these animals. It must not be toxic or hazardous, and must not be too small for them to not die. Every form of materials that will also be introduced must not hinder the normal routine management practices. For instance, if I decide to enrich my tank with, let's say, PVC pipes just to provide hiding site for my fish, I can decide to gum everything together. By the time I raise one of the, everything will come at the same time, so that it will not hinder the management practices or constitute a nuisance in the environment. Also, it is important to know that all these things that we are trying to use to make the fish happy should definitely not increase the financial implication of raising these animals, because this kind of thing to fish farmers, once it's going to add to their cost of production, definitely they will feel discouraged. So it is best to choose things that will not necessarily add to the cost of production. And most importantly, it must suit the behavior and physiological need of the fish that is being cultured. Several researchers have worked on the effect of environmental enrichment on different fish species. They have looked at how it affects zebrafish, salmon fish, rainbow trout, and so many temperate fish species. And I looked at it that in Nigeria, the most popularly cultured fish species is African catfish. How does environment enrichment improve this fish species? Researchers reported a reduced stress and frequency of abnormal behavior when they applied environmental enrichment. Some reported that the enrichment materials provided met the behavioral and physiological need of the fish. Also, some were like it improved the welfare of the fish, and others reported a higher return on investment. This led to a thinking that, will environmental enrichment really affect African catfish? This led to the study which was carried out. Environmental enrichment improves the growth rate, behavioral and physiological response of juveniles of Clarias garipinos under laboratory conditions. A total of 120 African catfish were of average size of 30 for 56 days. The fish were used in the study. The fish species were exposed to 4 different treatments. This is the study design. The first group of fish were exposed to plant-enriched rearing system. Water hyacinth was used for the plants in this study because it is easily available. We got it easily without any financial implication, and it is always available everywhere on the water surface. And it has also been reported that it helps to purify the water for fish. So we decided to use 3 to 5 stands of water hyacinth on the surface of the aquarium, and we did that in triplicate. We also exposed another group of fish to sediment. We provided a substrate for them to a layer of about 10 centimeters within the rearing enclosure in triplicate. And we decided to combine the two, the use of plants and the use of sediments in triplicate. And we had the last group, which serves as the control. Those ones were not enriched at all in triplicate. So we looked at the survival rate of this fish species over the culture period, 56 days. After doing the survival rate, we observed the growth disease. We looked at the FCR, their condition factor throughout the study period. We looked at some behavior of the African catfish during the culture period, the rate of accepting fish, their aggressive acts, and the shoaling behavior. The shoaling behavior was described as fish clustering as 6 or more at the lower 1/3 of the tank. Then aggressive acts was a physical attack that lead to mark or injury, and the duration of accepting the offered diet. Also, physiological analysis was carried out fortnightly throughout the study period. This was carried out using spectrophotometric method. All the obtained data were tested for normality using Leibniz test, and it was analyzed with Kruskal-Wallis test. The first objective, how does enrichment affect the survival rate of Clarias garipinos? The least survival rate was observed in the control tank. All others had the higher survival rate, and the best was observed in tanks exposed to sediment-enriched tanks, probably because the African catfish decided to make due use of the sediments and play around in heat that could boost their survival rates. And we also looked at the effect of environmental enrichment on the growth indices. The final body weight was found in substrate-rich tanks. Also, that growth indices was found in African catfish exposed to substratum enriched. The least growth rate was also observed in tanks that had no form of enrichment at all, the barren tanks that are popularly being used by our fish farmers, wherever all other ones that were exposed to either plant enriched, substratum enriched, or a combination of the two had a higher growth compared to the barren tanks. The effect of the environmental enrichment behavioral response of the Clarias garipinos. The first thing we looked at was the duration of feeding. How often were the fish willing to accept the feed under the different treatments? The study revealed that fish species exposed to sediment enriched tank consumed their diet within the shortest period of time they were exposed to the feed were offered to them, whereas the highest was found in plant enriched and plant and sediment enriched. This could be probably because the water hyacinth at the surface of the water, maybe it prevented the fish from getting the feed on time and accepting the diet. However, there was no significant difference between the duration used by fish in plant enriched and plant and sediment enriched tanks. The time of the day had no effect on the feed. There was no significant difference between the duration used in the morning and evening during study. Then effect of environmental enrichment on aggressive acts. Fish species raised in barren tanks had a higher count of aggression. When we looked at this, it was relatively higher compared to those that were exposed to either one form of enrichment or the other. And this is a serious pointer that raising fish in barren tanks is not the best for these animals because it encourages fighting, physical attack, which will definitely tell on the health and productivity of this animal. The highest level of aggression was found in tanks that were barren, and the least was also found in tanks that were exposed to sediments, and there was no significant difference between the plant enriched and plant. The effect of enrichment on the shoaling behavior of this fish species. Fish species that were raised in barren tanks were shoaling more at the bottom of the tank. Probably they were clustering together to hide themselves or trying to create a dark area for themselves. But the other groups of fish species that were exposed to one form of enrichment or the other, they had a higher level of duration of shoaling. Now, the effect of environment on the 2 weeks interval that we used for analyzing this blood samples from this fish species. It was repeatedly found that fish species exposed to sediment enriched tanks consistently had a low level of glucose level, meaning that they were not physiologically stressed in their environment. Interestingly, the fish species exposed to plant and sediment enriched tanks at the highest level of glucose level throughout the experimental period. At the first analysis we did, the values for all the fish species were relatively high, as it was decreasing until the end of the experiment, but it was consistently highest in fish species exposed to plant and sediment enriched tanks. This could be a pointer that the combination of those two enrichment were not the best for this group of fish species. Then the control tank, the glucose level was also higher compared to what we have in the sediment enriched tanks. These are my conclusion. The highest level of stress was found in tanks exposed to plant and sediment enriched tanks, which is a pointer towards the fact that the combination of these two forms of enrichment is not the best for these animals. Then we also concluded that Clarias garipinos exposed to fine and substratum gave the highest mean weight gain and the least aggressive traits compared to those that were exposed to other forms of enrichment. So modifying the rearing enclosure of Clarias garipinos greatly improved the survival rate, the behavioral and physiological response of Clarias garipinos under laboratory conditions. It is thus recommended that African catfish could be enriched with physical structures such as sediment in order to improve the growth rate, the survival rate, condition factor, behavioral trait, and reduce aggressiveness in this fish species without any financial implication. I want to especially appreciate Dr. Mrs. Oluwaseun C for the mentorship and expertise she has been given, and a big appreciation to all authors of this work for their contribution, and also towards the final publication of this article. These are my selected references. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, Dr. Ojelade. And
thank you very much, Dr. Ojelade, for that beautiful and captivating presentation. It was really an interesting one to listen to. And I have questions coming in for you. The first question came in from Sabet. Great talk, Oluwaseun. And he said he was wondering whether background or ambient sound conditions and sound levels may also play a role as an environmental enrichment achievement or tool. If so, which behavioral indices would you suggest measuring?
Thank you very much. I got that now. Yes, it is possible for sounds to create an environmental, I won't know if to categorize that as an enrichment now or not, but it will be interesting to look at the effect of sound on these aquatic animals, because in the real sense, some fish species are being raised in an environment whereby sound are always around them. For instance, when I decide to site my fish farm close to a feed mill, definitely there is a continuous sound that the fish will be exposed to throughout the culture period. So definitely sound could be an environmental factor. I am not sure if I can say it is an enrichment now, until when we carry out the research, we will know whether it is beneficial to their health or otherwise. Then we'll be able to say, it is a form of environmental enrichment. But it is something that I am looking forward to work on as well in collaboration with himself. So definitely we'll look at the behavioral indices of the fish. Sure, we need to look at the aggression level, because when the fish are not too convenient with what they are feeling in their environment, they start to attack each other, and the level of aggression will continue to increase. Definitely aggression will come in. Also, we will look at probably their operculum rates, if there's anything, if it is affecting them towards the respiratory system. Then on the other side, we might also look at their shoaling behavior or coercion behavior. Now, were they trying to coerce together and trying to run away from this introduced environmental sound or something? But there are so many behavioral tools that we can look at and decide or conclude whether it will be interesting to be playing music for our animals, our fish species in their aquarium. It will be interesting to visit a corporate fish farm and you see them playing music, and you ask them, why are they doing this? And they tell you that no, it is a form of enrichment. But it is until when we carry out that research and we get the outputs that we can consider that. I like that question. It's a good one.
Okay, thank you very much for your response. The second and third questions came in from Dr. Joshua. Let me quickly say the second one. He said, what is your advice to governments in developing countries to adopt fish production as source of income and foreign exchange? What would you advise?
Actually, what we have now is even because the farmers themselves, they are being discouraged about the level of the amount of money that the cost of production is taking now. So many farmers are deciding to fold up, which is a serious threat to the fish food industry. My advice is that government should come in a way that they will try to help to subsidize all these fish inputs, especially the feed, because that constitutes over 70 or 80% of the cost of production. So if government could help to subsidize most of these things, then probably if farmers can decide to formulate themselves and enrich the diet the more, then that will also cut down the cost of production. But in the real system, the thing still borders around the fact that the government should help in a way to reduce all these facilities that the farmers are being used, to encourage them to do more. Because so many people now are exporting their fish out of Nigeria. which is giving them a good foreign exchange earning. But with time, I just hope that we won't get to a situation whereby there won't be enough fish to eat at home, let alone exporting. So I don't know, but I know we'll get there.
Thank you very much for that practical response. I like that. Okay, his second question is asking if there are other ways to improve positive welfare in fish apart from the use of environmental enrichment. If there are, if you can mention some of them.
Yes, there are so many other ways in which we can ensure that these fish species have a positive welfare. We should not forget that this fish species that lives inside water, there are so many things that goes on within and around their rearing system. For instance, if I decide to raise my fish species in an environment that is not conducive, probably the water is not of good quality, or probably the flow rate is not at optimum for the fish species, then the fish species also will not give us the best output at the end of the day. So improving the welfare of fish species is not only around environmental enrichment, like I have said. I can decide to give them something different from what they are used to. I can decide to like, okay, like the question that Sai just asked, I can just look at it that, oh, after researching on the effect of sound on fish, it's beneficial for their heads. I can decide to buy a special music and be playing for them throughout. So there are different things that we can use, but the most important thing I see is that the water must always be clean for these animals because of all activities that is being carried out in this environment. So every time, the first thing that comes to mind as a fish farmer is that my fish must be in perfect health. Definitely my water must be at the normal water quality parameter range.
Okay, before I take Dr. Mrs. Yasere's question, you just said something now about the cleanliness of the water. Do you mean water that is potable, the standard for drinking water, or there are standards that should be adhered to when you are looking at fish? Because you know, when you say clean, it's like a general term. You know, clean might also be relative.
Let me say clean, not clean in that sense that we are thinking that, oh, this water is clean, I can drink. The water that is clean that I can drink might not be the best for fish species, because there are certain things, or there are certain range in which the quality of water must always be at each point in time. For instance, water that I want to give to my fish must not have chlorine. And I, as human being, can still drink water that has a reasonable level of chlorine. So when I say the water must be okay for the fish, there are certain range. It must not, the sub-oxygen in water must not exceed this range. It must not go below this. It must not be higher than this. The pH level must not be this. So following those range strictly and making sure it doesn't go out of that range, then the fish will always enjoy that and give you the best output.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Dr. Mrs. Yasere has also two questions for now. She's asking, if you had used tilapia fish, do you think you would have gotten the same or similar results?
I don't know, because one, I have not done that. I don't know if we are going to get the same result, but I strongly believe that the results might likely deviate from this, because the behavior of tilapia is a bit different from catfish. Catfish, they love to stay at the bottom of the tank, enjoy substrates. Probably the reason why we got those higher values at tanks that were exposed to sediments and rich tanks. But tilapia fish species, I'm sure they might not like substrates. They might prefer another form of enrichment, which the fish species will want to make good use of. So I can't say we will get similar results, but I believe there will be a little deviation from what we have in this. There will be a time that we'll also look at that. It's another good opportunity to look at the effect of this on tilapia.
Okay, thank you very much. Our second question is asking about the natural behaviors of African catfish. You know, you have enriched, we have seen the results. What are the normal behaviors in their natural environment?
Yes, African catfish in their normal environments, they love it when they are close to the sediments. When they burrow into the sediments, play within the soil, then come outside of the pond or tank to enjoy fresh water, then go back into the soil. That's their natural behavior. At times they are being called mud catfish because they love it when they are close to the sediments. So that was what led to that idea that instead of giving them a plain tank that does not have any sediments, let's give them sediments, what their behavior tends towards, and let's see if we have a better growth comparing to rearing them in barren tanks. So natural behavior of catfish, they love when they are close to the sediments. It's part of them. So
thank you very much. But I'm thinking if you can use from your results, you talked about aggression. Are they normally not aggressive, or are they aggressive?
African catfish normally will not be aggressive if there is not anything within the rearing environment that is stimulating that aggression. It's just when there are two people in a room, when there is no grievances, when there is nothing to fight over, definitely there will be no fight. Everything will be fine. I have my toy to play with, you have your own toy to play with. I have my own corner where I can hide, you have your own, there won't be any issue. But when the environment is not conducive, then we start transferring aggression. The same thing happens to this fish species. When they don't like what they are being exposed to, it triggers them to develop and start chasing and attacking each other, leading to mortality if it is not well managed by the fish farmer, because fish at times could tear themselves and cannibalize and lead to death. So I think I have answered that question.
Yes, you have. Dr. Shiro is also asking, can you mention a few abnormal behaviors in fish? Are they fish type specific?
Yes, there are some behavior that will be displayed by African catfish that might not be displayed by tilapia. For instance, if I decide to bring my African catfish out of water, probably for examination or something, my African catfish will still struggle and survive with time. But my tilapia definitely will not do that. Within a short period of time, I might lose the tilapia. So there are different behavior for different fish species. The more reason why it is interesting and important to understand the behavior of such fish species you are using, and be able to monitor the behavior that are related to that particular fish species. If not, then there will be issues. Because if I decide to take my tilapia and I want to look at cohesion or shoaling behavior, tilapia does not do that. So I can't look at those kind of behavior in tilapia. I looked at that in African catfish because I know it is part of what they display as their normal attributes. So behavior in fish, they are species specific, let me use that word, and what is particular to A is not the same as what we have in B. So I think it's like abnormal behavior.
Abnormal behavior in fish, are they fish type specific? Abnormal behavior in fish, are they fish type specific?
Okay, I think I have answered their fish type specific.
Thank you very much for your response. This question is from Snedon. I'm sorry, Line Snedon. I hope I pronounced the name very well. He said, how easy will it be for aquaculture to implement a gravel substrate? And do you think there are obstacles to getting aquaculture to use gravel? I hope you got that question.
I don't know. Maybe you can just.
How easy will it be for aquaculture to use gravel substrate? And do you think there are obstacles to getting aquaculture to use gravel?
Let me start from the latter part. Obstacles. Let me start from obstacles. Definitely gravel, I know we can always get gravel at an additional cost. Gravel is not something we'll see all around. I'm using Nigerian scenario now. Gravel is not something we'll see around. And I said, whatever form of environmental enrichment that we use should not necessarily increase the cost of production. It should be things that are available. that will not make the farmer to overstretch himself financially. So I might not really suggest gravel, because from our own side, you have to buy gravel before you can use it. But sediments, they are what you can see around that you can easily wash. Fine sand, in this study, we use fine sand sediments. So we washed it and we used it to make a bed layer in the rearing environment. So I don't know, in the aquaculture sector, if they can easily get sediment, I don't know, maybe it's going to be at an additional cost in some other people's environments, but in our own part, it is what you can easily get. Wash it, make use of it in aquaculture. But based on the output of this experiment, the use of this fine sand sediment gave the best growth rate and all other attributes for this fish species. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, thank you very much. Talking about cost, Dr. Emmanuel, okay, is also asking that did you consider cost implications of enrichment?
Yes. Yes, that is why I am saying it repeatedly, that whatever form of enrichment you are using, it should not really have any financial implication. It should be things that are readily available. And if at all it will have financial implication, it can be in it should have just a one-time effect. For instance, if I want to use PVC pipes, if I buy PVC pipes today for my fish to be hiding in, I can always use that repeatedly without having to change it after 1, 2, 3 years. So it could just be a one-time thing, but it should definitely not increase the cost of production. That is why I said, like that, I stated the different categories of enrichment, and I advise that people should sit down and look at what do they really have available for them to use that will not necessarily increase the cost of production and not affect the health of the fish.
Thank you very much. I have 2 more questions. The first one is from Ayodeji Fagbo. Say, do you think it is important to also consider the stocking density in fish tanks with the application of the environmental enrichment?
Yes, it is important to consider that. There is nothing that you will do that you won't consider the stocking density. It's as good as putting 2 people in a room and giving them 2 loaves of bread. There won't be issues. If I now put 100 people in the same room and give them the same 2 loaves of bread, they will even fight for that material that you are using as a form of enrichment. So to prevent that, you have to consider the amount or the stocking density of the fish you are stocking. For instance, if I am stocking close to 100 or 200 fish species, I should provide a replicate of those materials in the tank, such that it will be available that if you don't use this, you can use another one. There will be so many for them to play around with. So stocking that density is an important factor that should be considered in this area.
Thank you very much. And the very last question coming from Dr. Durosaro is asking if there are regulatory bodies in Nigeria that work on fish conservation.
You said?
I said Dr. Durosaro is asking if there are regulatory bodies in Nigeria that work on fish conservation. Yes,
there are. There are several industries that work together with Fisheries Society of Nigeria in order to conserve fish and continue to make fish available in Nigeria. Another important agency that is really working on that is NIOMA, Nigerian Institute of Oceanography and Marine Research. So all these bodies are working on efforts to make sure that all these fish species does not go into extinction. They are conserving them so that everything will not just go like that. There are agencies in Nigeria. I just hope that their work comes out.
Thank you very much for answering all our questions. I will now hand over back to our host, Dr. Oluwaseun C. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, amiable presenter, Dr. Ojelade Oluwaseun, for the wonderful presentation. And I'm happy you are doing excellently well in this field of yours. I thank you for championing the cause as regards fish behavior and welfare in Nigeria. And I believe you'll be able to mentor the younger ones. So we have more and more of researchers in fish behavior and welfare. I want to appreciate all the participants for joining in. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the engaging questions. The questions just kept, rolling in, and for making time out to be part of our meeting. I want to say a big thank you for your time and for your effort. Please, if you don't mind, you can turn on your video so we can see ourselves. And if you have further comment for the presenter, kindly indicate by the raise of hand, and I will unmute you to give your comment. So if you have any further comment, kindly indicate by the raise of hand button. I want to appreciate Said. Said, thank you so much for joining us. And I know you're glad I saw the questions, because this is also an aspect that you are interested in. I don't know if you have one or two things to say. I know we have some fish people here. Said is one of them. If you want to say something, I can unmute you, Said. If you want to add to this this discussion.
Well, yeah, thank you very much for the organizing, very interesting presentation, and thank you, Oluwaseun, for your great talk. And it was very interesting for me to learn more about fish welfare, which is very interesting in terms of new species that you are working on it. I don't have any experience with this species, so it was very interesting for me to join, and I would like to say that it can develop, I think, at least my understanding about fish welfare and animal welfare, but also in terms of how we can answer our future questions in terms of whether anthropogenic sound may also affect those species as well, and how we can measure those impacts. So I think it was very interesting, and in total, and no extra things to share. Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Duro Sharo has his hand raised up. Yes.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation, fish welfare. I always hear people talking about livestock species welfare, and we don't usually have people that talk on fish welfare. So thanks to Said. Said always join us, and I think he's so enthusiastic today because he's hearing his colleague talking about what he loves working on. So although I don't eat fish, but I want to hear about their welfare. And if I want to ask, do we have any reported cases of stress on fish behavior and welfare?
To the best of my knowledge, I'm not aware of any for now. I am not aware.
And so if you are not aware, we want you to search. And if you don't have too many literatures on that, you can also do some work on that.
Okay.
Maybe try to raise the temperature of the rearing water, and let's see the effects.
Maybe I can ask this. What do you think will be the effect of climate change, global warming on maybe the water temperature and the fish welfare? I remember there was a time I was in class. If you remember, there was I had a class. The class is on stress physiology or something. So one of the students asked me this question that you raised, that how do they respond to heat stress? And I was just blank because I have no idea. So, but what came to my mind that day, I just said, sorry, just hold on. I will need to call a friend. She's in Fisheries. And I picked my phone and placed her on call in my class. And I asked the question and I put it in speaker. So, Seun, please, can you just help me? I don't know what to do. I have this question, and she explained it, and she was able to save me that day. So do you really think this global warming thing can impose heat stress on our fish? Then
yes,
if it will, then it's worth investigating, sort of.
Yes, like Dr. Duro said, it is something I really want to work on, but I'm still having issues and trying to regulate those temperatures. But I think very soon I will get through that. But definitely climate change will affect fish species, because when the temperature is high, the temperature in the water would also increase. And when that increases, the dissolved oxygen will go down. When the dissolved oxygen go down, the fish will struggle to survive. And if care is not taken, they will all die off. So it's a serious threat to the fish species.
Also talking about vocalization, I also think it's a good place to look into. I always tell people, apart from you considering one type of vocalization on fish welfare or animal welfare, can you look at different type of music, things like jazz, classical, hip hop, country music?
You know what,
some
Dr. Duro,
and
myself and Said, we have been trying to look at how we can look at effect of sound on fish species. We are trying to develop that. I know, Said, I know you can hear now. Please, let's work harder and get this done.
I know he does things on bioacoustics, so he's a very good person.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Cool. Thank you very much for sharing and this opportunity to be here, and interesting question that all the response by Oluwaseun. And the thing is, for instance, in terms of global warming, it is also interesting to know that the increase of ambient sound level, that would be also kind of global changing environment. So if we increase the ambient sound levels in the environments, not only in the real environment, but also on the laboratory condition, for instance, pumping systems, aquaculture, feeding activity that may also increase ambient sound levels, those sound sources may affect fish in different ways. For instance, that you mentioned, if they vocalize, if they want to communicate with each other, the ambient noise increase may affect their communication success or feeding performance as well. But the thing is very important to consider that if we are interested to explore sound impacts on fish behavior, at least as far as I know, for instance, it is very important to quantify your sound source. If you use music, well, it would be interesting, but in terms of biological relevance, it is very important to know that which part of that sound treatment or music cause changes in the behavior. That's why, for instance, we use generated sound exposure in underwater condition, or even we record shipping noise activities, not only one type of sound. We make round of different sound sources or different shipping activities to avoid from pseudo replication. For instance, if we use just one music, we can say that in all results, that behavioral changes is only because of that specific music that we play, for instance, Mozart or any other music that we use. But the thing is, it is very important to consider to avoid from pseudo replication in ambient sound, in sound playback, and in our sound stimuli that we are using. So yeah, this is my just I don't
So thank you so much, Said. One last thing for Dr. Ojelade before I mute myself. In chickens and turkeys, we have some calls in form of vocalization. We have feed call. You see a mother making some sound to invite the chicks to come and feed. Then we have alarm calls to signal danger and some other things. Do we have all those things in fishes also?
It's possible, but because of the fact that they are in water, it's something that I'm not sure of how we can go about getting that. It's going to be an interesting one, but I'm still thinking seriously, how can we get those unique communication thing? There is this professor, Adura Adola, she called me at a time and said something similar, that there will be a way in which these fish species communicate with each other, that I should look into that. So I'm still thinking, Said, I know you can hear me, please, let's keep thinking, how do they communicate with each other?
I think you have a lot of work to do, a lot of manuscripts to publish, a lot of research work. And congratulations on the chosen field of fish welfare. It's an
Thank you
interesting
very
one.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
So want to appreciate all the participants. I really love it towards the end when we have this interactive session. And I believe, like I said, one of our aim in Animal Welfare Group Nigeria is to foster collaboration. So here we can interact with ourselves. I've never seen Sahid, real life, but I've been, talking with him virtually. So this is an opportunity for you to network, to collaborate, to think of, meet people and see if you could come together, with any research idea and work together on it. So I want to appreciate Said for your time. Dr. Ibanji, thank you for moderating today's meeting. And our guest speaker, Oluwaseun, thank you so much. Novelata, thank you so much for joining us. Moses Gani Umaru, Emmanuel Oke, thank you so much for joining. Dr. Duru Sharo, you're welcome. Dr. Shogebi, you're welcome, ma. Jez Rendell, thank you so much. I would have loved to see all you guys turn on your video. Sama from Ghana, thank you for joining. Oh, Jess, good to see you. Thank you so much. And be expecting my invitation. You'll be joining us at the ISAE regional meeting, Jess. Let me use this opportunity to also invite everybody to be part of our meeting. That will be our first regional meeting of the International Society for Applied Ethology, the Africa and West Asia region. We want to welcome everybody. So in the chat box, I already put the link. If you just want to participate, you have the link. And if you have any abstract or any presentation that you want to make on that day, please, you have the link. We still have 3 days to the deadline for abstract submission. Everybody is welcome to be part of that meeting. And we have loads of activities outlined. Please, let's try to tell our students to be part of this meeting because we have different activities for them. There will be a session on career opportunities in animal behavior and welfare, because if our students know that studying animal behavior, there's a career prospect for them, then it will encourage them to be able to be interested in this field. And therefore, the network keep expanding. We'll be having a virtual farm tour and it will be quite interesting. We'll also have good networking events. We have 4 plenary talks, and it's a whole lot of events that we are organizing. So please, if you check in the chat box, you'll see the link to register to be part, and also the link to submit your abstract. And we'll be having a networking section where we'll be divided into different groups depending on our area of expertise, because we know some people are farm animals like I am. We have the fishery group, we have the zoo and the wildlife group, and we also have a group for the companion animals. So everybody is welcome to that meeting. It is free. It is free, no charges. Wow. So Jess, do you want to say something? This looks like the first time I'm going to grab you on our meeting. Yeah. Please unmute. Please unmute. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
We're off. We're off.
Yeah.
No, I just want to say hello to everyone and thank you so much. I'm really sorry. I only got the tail end of the meeting. The clocks changed in the UK this weekend and I got the time wrong. So I'm looking forward to watching the playback on that, because we've got a team here that are working in the area of fish. So I'm really, really interested in sort of watching this back and yeah, having good feedback. But yeah, the conference that you were just talking about looks brilliant. So fingers crossed we can get there.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Dr. Asunduwa Kwada, you're welcome. And Dr. Shonibare, Professor Shonibare, sorry, you're welcome to our meeting. So is anybody still having any comments before we end the meeting? We're just 5 minutes past the time. Is there any other comment from the participants? Yeah, on the 17th of November, we'll be having the 6th virtual inaugural meeting of the Animal Welfare Group Nigeria, and this will be delivered. The lecture will be delivered by Professor Bas Rodenbra from the Netherlands. So on the 17th, watch out for our platform on LinkedIn, Facebook, so you'll be able to register and be part of the virtual inaugural lecture. Okay, Dr. Asudua, please unmute. And we'll love to see your face, please, if you don't mind. With this, we'll wrap up. We'd like to wrap up this evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Animal Welfare Group Nigeria, on Facebook, Animal Welfare Group Nigeria, and on Twitter at AWGN14. And also for our previous webinars and lectures, you'll have them on the Animal Welfare Group YouTube channel, so you can, have them as something you can fall back on to go back and watch. Please give your comments and subscribe. Thank you, and have a lovely day wherever you are, and see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.